Hello dear students, welcome to the sixth lecture of Unit 4. In the previous lecture, we studied about the tasks of requirement engineering. We were in the elaboration phase where we were studying requirement modeling and we left at elements of model. We were covering that topic. In the previous lectures, we studied about the scenario-based models, the use cases, and activity as well as swim lane diagrams which are complementing the use case diagrams. Today we are going to see the behavioral models and the state and sequence diagrams which are showing the behavior of the system. Again, the system that we are going to take for reference is the cardio health monitor system. You can refer the previous lectures for knowing the method in which the cardio health monitor is going to work to see the features and functionalities of this particular software. You can refer the fourth lecture of this chapter. Now, first we need to know the use cases. So there are a total of 8 use cases and 2 actors in the system. We shall now proceed with behavior based elements. Now what are behavior based elements? Actually the behavior based elements is nothing but a kind of representation of the system in a manner which shows that the system is behaving in a particular kind of way. So you can say that how a system is behaving internally, what kind of interactions are taking place in between the objects or the classes of a system. So here we are showing nothing but a kind of state change. So state is nothing but how a system is corresponding to events or how it is reacting to any external event that is taking place. Let us take a simple example of water. Okay, so water is in 3 different forms: solid, liquid, and gaseous. So these 3 are the states of water. But when does this transition of state happen? This transition happens when we are actually either heating water to make it gaseous, or we are reducing the temperature so that water can convert to ice. So these are something applying heat or applying less, you are reducing the temperature, decrease in temperature. So these are nothing but external events due to which state of water is in a transition from solid to liquid or from liquid to gaseous form. Okay, so a state diagram is nothing but it is representing such kind of state changes. So we say that if you are logging into a software, initially you were in a state where you were opening the website, and after you are completing the process, you are in a state, in a logged in state. Okay, so in between there are various states. So first state can be that you are opening the website. Second state can be you are clicking on the login button. Third state can be you are entering your credentials. Next state can be you are going to press the login button or submit button. And the final state can be you are in a logged in state. So all these are state changes which are actually triggered due to some kind of activity or some kind of events which are happening. This kind of behavior is called behavioral based element, and they are represented by 2 kinds of diagrams: state diagram and sequence diagram. Now state diagram is depicting nothing but the transition of states of a system, whereas sequence diagram is representing these transitions by highlighting which classes are performing what kind of behavior, what kind of transitions, and what kind of interactions in between the objects or in between the classes. Okay, so now we shall move forward. Okay, so use state diagrams to represent what? We use state diagrams to represent events and to represent the change in events or a transition in different states. So first is the state diagram for editing a profile of a practitioner or profile edit for a practitioner. Now what happens in a profile editing for a practitioner is the steps generally consist of first is a login step in which a practitioner will log in into the system. He will choose to edit his profile. He will edit any details which he wanted to edit, or he can also change his password in profile edit too. So first, if he's changing his details, then his details which he's putting in, like his email, like his phone number, you are checking or you are validating that the number is of 10 digits if it's a mobile number. If it's an email, then we are checking whether the email is of a particular format, not something apart from the format. That is nothing but validation. After validating, if there are mistakes in validation, you are again redirecting to the form, you are filling it again, that there is some error in the form. If there are no errors, then the profile can be edited only when you are entering your password. After entering the correct password, the changes will be reflected in the database. But if your password is wrong, it will prompt you again to entering the password again. And at any time when you are filling the form, you can cancel the updation of your profile. So this is what we are going to see in the diagram. So first you are entering your system. Okay, this is again a representation of entering into the system, same as your activity diagram. So you're coming into the system and coming out of the system remains same, whereas this is a rounded kind of state which you are representing. All these are your states. Okay, so first we are assuming that you are successfully logged in into your account. First of all, profile edit of the practitioner can be done only by the practitioner, so there is no admin coming into picture here. Okay, so we are assuming that you are in a successfully logged in state. So I have skipped the signing in phase. Okay, so you are successfully logged in. Now the practitioner wants to edit a profile. This is nothing but an activity which is happening, due to which the system is transiting from successfully logged in state to a practitioner registration form. So this practitioner registration form will be open when the practitioner wants to edit his profile, or he's clicking on the edit profile button. Okay, now after doing this, if he wants to cancel changing the profile, he can come out of the system directly. But if he wants to edit his profile, then when this form is open, he can edit all the details from the form and he can submit the details. After clicking on this submit button, the validations will be checked, whether the email is in proper format, whether he has written his mobile number in a proper format, is there any problem in the data that he's putting in, are there any data which should be filled and he hasn't filled them, required kind of data. So all this will be checked in check validations. So after check validations, if there is some problem found in the data he has entered, then validations are unfulfilled and there will be an error message which is displayed. Hence, it will be redirected back to the form where he has to edit his details again or check wherever the details were entered wrongly. If the validations which are checked are okay, then correct validations, and correct validations, it will ask or prompt for a password, his password for login. If the password he is entering is correct, it will be checked here. If it is correct, then all the changes that he had made in his profile will be updated in the database, saved, and he can come out. But if the password which he had entered is invalid during the checking phase, he will be redirected back to the enter password. So this process will go on unless and until he keeps a correct password and updation in the database and you are coming out of the system. This is how the practitioner is editing his profile. Next diagram is the state diagram for login. Okay, so this is a diagram which is applicable for practitioner as well as administrator, for both the actors. So the system first is, we are entering the system. So first activity which is going to trigger the sign in state is the activity of the practitioner or administrator wanting to log in. So they will click on the sign in. So clicking the sign in is a state of the system. After clicking in sign in, the system is displaying the screen for entering your username and password. That is an activity which is happening. Due to this activity, there is another state where the system is entering a state where the user is entering his login credentials. Next is when the user is pressing the submit button, then a next state is entered, which is verification of the username and password. If this verification of the login credentials is successful, then it is correct validation and appropriate home page is displayed. Now, why have I used the word appropriate? Appropriate because if it is a practitioner login, it will show the practitioner home page, whereas if the administrator is login, he will be shown a different administrator page. The home pages of administrator and login has to be different, they cannot be same. So I have written the word appropriate. Okay, and if the login credentials are wrong, if username or password, something of the other is wrong or both are wrong, then an error message is displayed and again you need to enter your username password. Okay, so this is a state diagram for login. Next is state diagram for practitioner registration. Okay, now for practitioner registration, this I have taken, this can be applied for both the practitioner as well as administrator, both the actors. You are entering your system and we are assuming that you have successfully logged in into the system. If you want, you can increase a step further by showing the signing in step. This step, you are entering credentials, error message, verification, appropriate home page. This whole diagram you can insert here when you are entering in the system. Okay, if you want, it is just a addition to this diagram. Okay, you have successfully logged in. Then the practitioner is wanting to register. That is an activity or an external event due to which system is entering into register practitioner form page. Okay, now this form page, if you don't want to register, you can come out. If you want to register, then form you are filling and you are submitting. Okay. Now, when you are submitting the form and you are registering the practitioner for the first time, you are checking whether the username of that practitioner is already in the list. Means you are checking whether that practitioner is already registered in the software or not. If it is already registered, then you are coming out, you are shown the form back that this user or this practitioner is already registered in your software. You need some other username to register a particular practitioner. Okay, so you have to go back in that case if the username is already existing. If your username is not existing, then you can move further. Okay, when your username doesn't exist, you will check for validations. Now, what kind of validations you are checking? You are checking whether whatever details of the practitioner you have entered in the form are correct or not. You are checking whether his email address, you are checking whether his phone number, everything is as per a particular format. If it is as per the format, then you are having a correct validation, you are registering the practitioner with the database and you are updating the database and leaving the system. But if these validations are not okay, they are unfulfilled, you are displaying an error message and you again have to enter the details in the form. Okay, so this is your practitioner registration process. Next, we are moving on to sequence diagrams. Now, sequence diagrams are nothing but you are doing the same thing You are showing the state transitions, what kind of interactions are happening between all the different objects or all the different classes or all the different actors of your system. So I have taken into consideration the practitioner registration sequence diagram. Now for this, you should know how you are going to register the practitioner. So first of all, the practitioner, if you want to enter or register the practitioner, you need to log in. Okay, so the administrator is login inside. He's checked whether he is successfully able to log in or not. If he is able to log in, then practitioner is giving a request for the administrator is giving request for registering the practitioner. He is entering the usernames of and details of the practitioner. Then we are checking whether his username is valid or not or already available in the system. If everything goes proper, then you can update the database with the new practitioner registered inside and your system is done. Now, there is something called as a response message which are optional. So you don't need to write them, and even if you specify them, you should specify them in dotted lines, which I have avoided here. But you can do that in your case if you want it to be applied in your system. Now, here I have shown total of 3 objects or 3 classes interacting. First is the administrator class having an object A, a cardio health monitor controller, that is a object of the system CO, and registration manager, that is a database for registration, and it has an object R. So these 3 are interacting. The administrator is entering his login credentials like username and password. The system is going to check with the database whether he is registered or he has actually successfully correct credentials he has entered or not. Okay. Thereafter, there is an optional message which is sent that he is a correct user, his credentials are correct, and based on that, his request or access is granted. So now administrator is into your CHM software. After that, he is giving a request to register a practitioner to the system, and he is entering the practitioner details. Now what is happening? The details of the practitioner that he has entered are being checked here, whether the username that he has used for the practitioner is available or not. He is also checking for the details that he has entered, are they valid or not. Okay, so based on these two, he will get an optional message back that the username is available or not, and all the data that we have entered are correct or not. And based on that, there will be an update in the practitioner master or the registration database, and this update will be shown to the administrator that the practitioner has been registered. Next is sequence diagram for profile management, where we are showing specifically for editing a password. So what happens in this is, first of all, your practitioner will log in into the system. His login credentials will be checked. Then he will give a request to change password. He will confirm his old password. He will enter his new password, and he will re-enter his password. He will confirm his old and new passwords, and based on that, his new password will be checked and stored again. Okay, so we have a total of 3 classes again: practitioner class, cardio health monitor controller, and profile manager with their respective objects P, C, CO, and TR. Next, practitioner is entering his login details. The system will go to the database to check. Next, the database will give a reply that credentials are okay. Hence, the practitioner will be granted access to the system. He will put on a request of changing the password. He will confirm his old password and new password. Old password will be entered once and new password has to be confirmed 2 times. Next is He will check the password credentials. Password credentials need to be checked here because he is entering his old password again. So that is checked. Plus he's checking validations for the new password that is entered. So it is having symbols, it is having a proper length, it is using a combination of different characters, special cases, etc. And if all these validations are correct, that means if his old password and new password validations are correct, then the new password is updated into the database and a profile change message is given to the practitioner. Okay, so this was about the sequence diagram. The same I'm giving you hands-on for state and sequence diagrams as I had given for UMLs for activity and swim lanes. The definition remains the same: manage test, manage report, and manage client. To get into details of this, you can move on to the previous lecture and understand what happens in all these three processes so that you can use these details for preparing your state and sequence diagrams, and you can submit your UML diagram on this particular Google Classroom code. That's all for today's lecture. Thank you. We'll be meeting in the next.